Hi guys! So I've been having a really crazy time at work recently, which is why I haven't been able to film a video in ages. But on the flip side, it means that I have got a huge amount of use out of my new Hobonichi Cousin work planner, and that's what I want to show you today. So you've probably already seen this cover. I did a review of it when I first got it, and I'll link that down below. I absolutely love it. It's the best cousin cover ever. Inside I have my university library cards, my business cards, and some receipts that I need to send away to finance to get some expenses reimbursed. The biggest change that I've made since last year in my cousin is that I am now using a mechanical pencil instead of a fountain pen. This is a Parker Jotter pencil and I really love it and I'm very happy with it. So as you can see, this is the 2017 Spring Cousin, so it actually only officially started today, the 1st of April, in terms of the daily spreads, but the weekly spread started last Monday and I actually started using it the Saturday before that because I just couldn't wait, so I'll show you how I dealt with that. On the inside cover here I just have some arrow flags which I use to mark particularly important to-dos that I'm worried about forgetting. Usually things that I have to bring in to work from home, like my laptop or library books to return or things like that. As you can see, I just have this in one flap so that you can see the cover of the cousin. I could have put it in both sides, like the traditional Hobonichi Cousin cover or traditional Hobonichi covers where you have both covers inside the cover, if that makes sense, but I decided to leave it like this because I've been quite enjoying being able to see this writing on the cover. So I think I'll leave it like that for now. Here I have a picture of my dog Panda, and this is my absolute favorite card ever. My friend gave this to me a few years ago and it just feels so appropriate for my work planner that I always keep it in there. For the yearly spreads, I don't write in these, but I do sometimes use them when I need to reference an event that's very far in the future, or occasionally, very rarely in the past, because it's got 2016 layout. Now, one of the other big changes since last year is in the use of these vertical monthly spreads. So last year I was using these to give me a bird's eye view of my year. So I would write in major events like summer schools, conferences, other times when I was away for a good chunk of time, I would just write them in here. And then I would also write events up here so I could see at a glance what was going on that month, in addition to my daily activities like teaching and stuff like that. And then down here I would write the research projects that I wanted to be focusing on that month. So I kind of felt like it was a bit redundant because I had all of that same information in my monthly spreads, which I'll show you in a minute. And I felt like I wasn't really using this very much, and so it was kind of being underutilized and it was more of a pain to keep it up to date than anything else. And at the same time, I felt like my daily pages, which I use for a mix of in-depth daily to-do lists on particularly crazy days at university and more long-term notes, I felt like it was, as the year went on, it was getting harder and harder to find those long-term notes. So for example, I would write something at the beginning of the year that I then needed to go back and reference over the course of the year. And by the time, I would write them on the monthly index pages like these. And for the first couple of months it was fine, but by the time I had like 11 or 12 monthly index pages to search through for something, I'd be like, I know it's in here somewhere. Was it April? Was it May? Was it July? It would get quite time consuming. So I decided to use this in the way that a lot of people use this vertical monthly page and use it as an index to the daily pages. So I've already started doing that. I've written in, when I transferred over the information that I needed for my old cousin into this one, I put some information on here that I already know I'm going to be using in the months to come. And so I've listed those pages in here so I can see April 1st is a list of contributors to a volume that I'm editing. I'm going to need to be checking that over at least the next 3 or 4 months. So that's here. So I can just easily flip to this one spread and find those things. Things that are more ephemeral that I won't need to reference after the month is over, I'm not going to put in here. So it will be very easy to find, say when I get to September and the year is halfway through, I'll just look back over this, and not every day will be filled in, only the ones that I'm actually going to need to check. So I think it will be a really easy, convenient way to find what's in the daily pages. I might still continue using this bottom part here to list my research projects, because the research projects are things that can easily get pushed to the back burner when you have urgent events and meetings and appointments and time-sensitive tasks. And it's really important to keep those at the forefront of my mind so that I make sure to reserve enough time for them. So I might continue to put those down here, but I'm not sure. At the moment I feel like I don't need to, because I have the monthly spreads and they function in quite a similar way. So we'll see. But this is the first monthly spread that I use. This is March. The monthly pages actually begin in February, but I was still using my old cousin then and I didn't need them. So I started this on the 25th of March, which was a week ago. So the actual weekly pages don't start until Monday the 27th of March, but I was just so desperate to start this new planner. I really felt like my old cousin was, you know, kind of at its very end, and I just felt like it was time to move into the new one. So I kind of took a gamble, starting it the weekend beforehand, and I thought what I'll do is, because I've got this whole monthly spread and I'm right at the end of March, I'll just write down my remaining to-dos for Saturday and Sunday on here, just make a big list, and then I'll transfer over the ones that I really want to get done on one of those 2 days onto this little daily box. And the Sunday one I extended down here to the bottom. So these were all Sunday to-dos, and then these were Saturday to-dos, and they were also all listed over here, and that was the way I got around not having the weekly spread for 2 days. So this is not a typical use of the monthly spread. How I normally use the monthly spread is more like this. So this is April, so we're now on the 1st of April, and how I've set this up is I list the non-specific tasks that I want to get done or that I want to work on sometime during the month over here. So this is a very easy way that I can keep coming back and checking, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. Some of these are big tasks that won't get finished during the month, and some of them are just small one-off things that I'm not sure when I'm going to get around to them, but I want to do sometime in the month. So that's all there. And then on the actual monthly boxes themselves, I write down a combination of overall locations or jobs for the day, basically so that I can tell what my month looks like in terms of planning out research projects. Because like I mentioned, the research projects tend to be the more amorphous ones that don't have an immediate deadline. And so I need to make sure that I set aside enough time for them among all of the other events. So, for example, on this day, I'm going to be working all day with a colleague on a book proposal, so I put that in. I don't put exact times or locations because those go in my weekly pages, and I'm trying to cut down on redundancy. So generally, if I need to make an appointment or check if I'm going to be available at a specific time, I'll just go to the weekly spread because that's got everything in it. And so that I don't end up copying things twice, I don't put that kind of stuff down in the monthly spreads. I just put down a kind of impressionistic plan for the day. So for example, I've put down here, I'm going to be in my department. And I haven't put down exactly what I'm going to be doing there, just that I'm going to be there. I haven't put down, say, revision lesson from 10 until 12, because that's not important. If I need to make an appointment, I can do it on the weekly spread. And I filled this in for the rest of the time that I know what I'm doing. So up until August. After that, you know, like I'll fill in events as they come up. The other thing that I do with the monthly spread is I label particular research projects that I want to be working on in that month. So I've done this with the little empty box that you have next to the date in the monthly spread in the Hobonichi. So you see here it says the 5th, and then I've written in, this is just an acronym for a volume that I'm editing, and so I've put in, this is going to be the focus for this week. When I'm not doing something else on a specific day, then I'm going to be working on this. So I've put that in for this week, and this week, and this week. So for all of those 4 weeks, that's going to be my research task focus. Then we move on to the the weekly spreads. So the weekly spreads, as you can see, are really the heart of this planner for me. This is where I put all of my appointments, all of my to-dos, all of my scheduled events, everything like that. And so what I'm doing is, this was the first week that I've been using it, because obviously it started on Monday the 27th. So at the top, you have these 3 check boxes, and I use these to put the overall focus of the day. Kind of like what I was putting in the monthly spread, if I'm in the university, if I'm at home, what I want to be the main thing that's happening that day. So on Monday, I spent the whole day in dress rehearsals for a play that I was putting on with my students. And so I wrote rehearsals there so that at a glance I know this is where I am today. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was at a conference that I organized, which was connected to the performance. It was all part of a bigger research project. That's why I've had such a crazy week and haven't been able to film. So I wrote conference, and ideally that's all I want to have here. I just want to have the focus for the day, or if there's a particular deadline. So for example, here's a deadline that I'm waiting for submissions for a volume that I'm editing, and so I put there that that's the deadline. So I'm trying not to put tasks up here. I'm trying to keep all of the tasks down here at the bottom so that I have a nice clear distinction between the top and the bottom, between the timed part of the planner. On the side here, I use this for to-dos that aren't specific to a particular day, but that I want to happen sometime during that week. So often I'll write them out in advance. So for example, let's see if I have anything. I don't have anything yet for the upcoming weeks, but often if I have something that I want to do sometime during the week and I'm really not sure when, I just put it on here, and then I know that it's taken care of. I won't forget about it, and when I come to this week I can decide what to do with it, and I'll try to slot it into a particular day. If I already know the day that it has to happen, then obviously I'll put it straight into the day, but sometimes I don't know. So here I was actually just using this as a reference list for a couple of things that I needed to keep checking during the course of the week. So as part of the conference, there were some attendees who received bursaries, and I needed to check that they had all handed in their documents with their flight receipts and boarding passes so that I could give them to my departmental manager to process. And so I just kept a list there and would kind of tick them off as I received the documents. And that was something that I needed to keep checking over the week, so it was quite convenient having it here. Then the rest of this is, at the conference, I just wrote in the overall schedule, when each session was, and things like who was chairing it, what the session was about, so that I would have this in my planner as well as having it on the program. And I would just cross them off as they took place. And then down here I had the to-dos for that day. So normally what I would do is, if I had a particularly busy day with lots of work-related to-dos that I needed to write down, I would switch over to the daily pages. But because I started this planner early, and the weekly spread starts on the 27th of March, but the daily spreads don't actually start until the 1st of April, which is today. You can see I've already used the first 11 pages of April. So I couldn't use the daily pages for daily to-dos, because I thought, for one thing, it wouldn't be on the right day, which would be kind of annoying. And also I would get further and further ahead of myself, and I didn't want to use up all of April before April had even started. So what I did instead is I made a page that was dedicated to to-dos for the play, and then a page that was dedicated to to-dos for the conference. And then I just, every day, I would just put in my to-dos that were related to one or the other, because that was all I was doing in terms of work on those days. So that worked fine. So I got to use it over the course of about 3 or 4 days. So that's the weekly spread. This is the same way that I was using my weekly spread last year, except that I was a bit inconsistent about reserving the top part here just for the focus of the day and the to-dos for the bottom. And I'm going to try to be stricter with that this year, because I'd like to have the daily overview here and the actual detailed to-dos at the bottom. And I'll just remember that if the to-dos get so complicated that I run out of room here, to switch over to the daily spreads, if that makes sense. So I've already put in some appointments and some to-dos for next week, but usually what I do is I just add to them as I go, and so as the week goes on it gets more and more filled up. Then the next section is the dailies. And for the dailies, I've marked off each month with these tabs that I got from the Hobonichi accessory shop, and I really like these because they're very small and unobtrusive and they don't stick out a lot, so they don't get in the way of my pencil. Last year I was marking the monthly indices of the dailies with these tabs, which you can see are really big and stick out a lot, so it was quite easy to find them and turn to the right page, but they got in the way of the pen and I didn't like that. I am using these to mark the monthlies, the weeklies, and the actual day that I'm on, and that's fine because they're vertical tabs, so they stick out the top, and that's okay. So as you can see, this cover doesn't have any of the bookmarks like the actual Hobonichi covers do that stick out the bottom, but I actually prefer not to have those. I think I like just being able to turn to the top tab. I think somehow that's easier, so that's what I'm going with for now. So I haven't used this turning the page spread. This is the first year that Hobonichi have introduced that, and I'm not used to having it, and I think maybe I just haven't decided on a good use for it. So for the moment that doesn't bother me, I'm just leaving it blank. If I think of something to use it for, then I will, but for now it's empty. I might use it for something that I need to come back to over and over as the year goes on quite a lot, because I'll know it's right at the beginning of the daily pages, but as of yet, I'm not doing that because I'm using the back grid pages for that, and so I might, if I run out of room, start using this, but not yet. So the monthly pages I use for an index of the daily pages, and I write down what is on every day here. So I've just labeled 1 to 30 for each day of April, and then I just write in what the topic of that day is. So sometimes you can't see it yet because, as I said, I started this before the month actually started. Sometimes it will just be daily notes and I'll just write daily notes. Sometimes it will be things that I need to check over the course of a few days or a week, but then I won't need again after that. And sometimes it's those more long-term lists. So for the long-term list, like I said, I put them in here straight away so that I'll easily be able to find them as the year goes on. But if it's something that I'm not going to need to refer back to, then I just put them in here and that's enough, and I can find them during the month and I won't need them again afterwards. So anything that I will need to refer to after the month is over will go in the index at the beginning of the book. Sometimes I don't realize at the time. I noticed this last year. Sometimes I wrote down something and I didn't really think I would need to refer back to it as often as I did, and then actually I did. And so that's fine if that happens. As soon as I realize later that I need it, I'll put it in this vertical index at the beginning. So some examples of long-term lists that I've already got in here. I copied these over from my previous cousin. So this is a list of contributors to a volume that I'm editing, and I'm going to need to check back over the next few months because, I'll need to check when they send in their submissions, where it is in terms of editing, etc., etc. So that's gone in the index at the beginning of the book. And then these are some abbreviations that I need to refer back to over and over again, and I had them in my planner all last year and I've copied them down this time again. And then these are some contributors for another volume that I'm going to need to check over and over again over the next few months. This is a list of people who booked to go to a group dinner as part of the conference, and so I don't need it anymore. I only needed this, like kind of on the day of the dinner. So that's gone in the monthly index, but it hasn't gone in the yearly index because I won't need it again. These are from some notes to myself for typesetting of a book that I'm currently waiting to receive the proofs for, so I'm going to need to check back over again over the next few months. And then these were my notes from my opening speech for the conference, which is now finished and I won't need again. And this is a list of possible dates for a revision lesson for one of my courses, so I'm just waiting to hear back from all the students and then I can arrange the lesson and then I won't need this anymore. So you see how this is kind of a mix of more long-term and more short-term things, and then as time goes on I'll also have daily to-do pages. So like I said, I've just labeled the beginning of every month with one of these tabs so I can easily get to the monthly indices, but I'll also be checking this yearly index a lot. And then at the back, after the daily page is finished, there are some blank, just gridded pages without dates, and I'm using those for lists of things that I'm going to be needing to check a lot over the course of the year. So for example, I'm admissions tutor for our department, and so I have a list of the students who have applied to do a degree with us and what stage their application is at, and that's something that I need to reference a lot. So I decided that rather than putting it in the daily pages, I'll just put it at the back so that I never have to think about where it is. And then I've also got lists of phone numbers and addresses at the back, not in the contact pages. Hobonichi gives you a few places for addresses, but just in one of those blank gridded pages, because last year I kept having to be careful about what parts of the planner I could show, and it got to be really unwieldy because I had so many names and phone numbers all like sprinkled throughout the planner of work contacts and students and all kinds of things, that I decided that I didn't want to risk that again this year. So in the actual planner, I'm just putting in first names or abbreviations, so I don't have to worry about that, and I'm not putting in any phone numbers, and I'm putting them all in the end. So in the very end, I just have 2 more pictures of Panda. I have this card from Happy Scrappy. She believed she could, so she did, which is really inspirational for me at work. And then I have this little booklet that came from a Leuchtturm, which just has more ongoing things that I'm going to need to transfer from year to year that I don't want to copy out over and over again. So passwords, PIN codes, all of that kind of stuff. And that's it. So this is my new Hobonichi Cousin for 2017, and I will continue updating you as the year goes on. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon for another video. Bye!